Greetings, loyalists, heretics, xenos, and other assorted entities of Warhammer 40k. This is Arendelft. Today I just thought I'd share a few thoughts of my own on the particulates of my reason why I'm such a Space Marine advocate, and, of course, why my views are not even that of a traditional Space Marine advocate. So, firstly, on that subject, I just want to talk about super soldiers across a multitude of genres. Well, all genres. The concept of a super soldier is basically someone who is, of course, has physical prowess, but the physical prowess isn't actually all that important. It's 90% of it is up here. Because Jason Bourne, from, of course, the Bourne trilogy, which will soon be I don't know if they'll call it the quadrilogy, I don't know. There's going to be a fourth movie coming out in 2016, and I am stoked for it. He was a super soldier, in my opinion. He had such training, discipline, and even when he went rogue, that showed through so well. Everything about that guy was just perfect for the concept of a super soldier, and he was just a regular man. He did not have the physical prowess, but they showed what someone can do when they have that level of training. I mean, honestly, they went from one room to another, fighting, grabbing innocuous objects, just whole 9 yards. And if even one Space Marine had that kind of training, which they should have better training than Jason Bourne. Because Jason Bourne wasn't trained practically from a child. In Space Marines, at least most Space Marine chapters are supposed to induct initiates from that age. So, they should, for all intents and purposes, have better training. They should grow up literally like Spartans. This vicious, uncompromising soldiers who aren't so filled with emotion and get hurt over things easy. I know it's entertaining to read about people with emotion, but if you want that, read Gaunt's Ghosts from Dan Abnett. Amazing series. Amazing. But Space Marines do not belong in that field. Not in my opinion. That being said, there are numerous authors who make Space Marines look like pansies in power armor who don't even have the same discipline as guardsmen. Yeah. In fact is, if you were to pit Gaunt's Ghosts against Spend Counter's Grey Knights, it'd be a one-sided fight, but not in the direction most people would think. Why? Because, I don't know, Gaunt's Ghosts are intelligent? Yeah, well, I even read a scene where Space Marine Grey Knight was holding on to something. Some water came pouring down, and somehow, even though he had just put his helmet on, like earlier that chapter, the water came gushing down and got into his mouth. And I was just like, did his helmet get like ripped off in the tide of water? Did his helmet dissolve underwater? Or is the seal so poor on his suit that water can get in even though it can keep him safe in space? That's another issue for another time. Sorry. But long story short, Space Marines are one of across all the genres that I've read that have super soldiers, Space Marines are up there. Now, since most authors butcher their mental training, it's their physical prowess that first impressed me so much. Because of their Black Carapace, the link they have with their armor, whole 9 yards. They are so freaking awesome in these routes. But as I said, that's only 10%. Their physical prowess, in my opinion, is only 10% of what makes a super soldier a super soldier. Without the mental training, you're just a pansy in power armor. And there have been a few authors who have, over time, captured some parts of what it means to be a space marine, Adeptus Astartes. But none that have truly captured the essence of it. The essence of being raised from birth to be something. I mean, one series that did that correctly were the Spartans from Halo, Master Chief's batch. They were raised from children. Mind you, they remembered having homes, and they were kidnapped, and they were told that. They were told that they'd been kidnapped to become these things. And boy, did they become them. The pinnacle of super soldiers. Their mental discipline was perfect. They were designed and trained to be the best. And they were the best, especially if you read the books. In the later Halos, like Halo 4 and 5, they've made John and now Linda, Kelly, and Fred. They've basically, to humanize them, they've been taking away from their training, pretending like they are not the hardcore soldiers that they are. Not to say that they don't have emotions. Master Chief is strongly bonded with Cortana, which is why, of course, he would go against orders to go after her and fight so hard to get to her, whole 9 yards. You know, he has strong bonds to her. But that would have been, in my opinion, a little more conflicting for him to do that. And, I don't know, just book off. 343 Industries suddenly just changed the look, the face of Master Chief. Now, mind you, he had been through some serious crap to get to Cortana before. So, they're not coming from nowhere when they do that. Long story short, Spartans from the Halo series, mentally wise, are the closest I can simply dictate to what the essence is to be a super soldier. Ever. Even above that of Space Marines. Now, physically wise, they're equivalent to most scouts in the Adeptus Astartes. That's right. Scouts. Because they don't have the ability to take a hit like the full-fledged Adeptus Astartes. They have that extra speed and maneuverability. With that in mind, the concept of them as a full-fledged Space Marine, or for that matter in Terminator armor, with their level of training, is just like, oh wow. Oh, it's just Covenant would be gone, everything would be gone. Just, of course, in the video games, they can't show the true level and reflexes of Spartan, and even in the cinematics, they don't even bother trying. But there was a cartoon movie that captured the essence of it rather well. Oh, it was impressive. But then it showed Dr. Halsey as really young, a really young woman, rather than the older woman that we all know she was before John was even incorporated into the Spartan program. So that video, in my mind, was just tossed out the window. But it did show the true speed and reflexes of Spartans, especially versus the brutes, all about strength. But even their bodies are fragile if you put around in the right place, and Spartans do that. So they would just run by, killing everything on the way by. Every shot they fired, a kill shot. Because to them, as they were moving that fast, it's normal to them. Which is why so few shots even hit them. And Kelly, the fastest of them all, I remember her jumping up at one point, catching 2 plasma rifles in her hands, and then firing with those because she just put her SMGs back. And that was amazing, and a true reaction of what she could do. Because of all the Spartans, Kelly was the fastest. It was said that you couldn't touch her unless she allowed it. So, and that was even among Spartans. Truth be told, you could never touch any of the Spartans unless they allowed it. But among Spartans, she was just something. And Linda was the lone wolf. She could literally ricochet rounds around targets to take out what she needed. Like when a Banshee was facing her, she could ricochet around off of things to hit the elite through the back canopy and kill them. Which is not unfeasible, considering, you know, her equipment, her design, her training. That was well within the bounds of what a super soldier can do and would. And then Master Chief, of course. He was kind of the jack of all trades, master of none. But with Cortana, when those two first got put together, when you're the jack of all trades, you suddenly become a whole lot meaner when you've got an AI that can run those calculations just through the wall. Ooh. Oh. And in my recent video, when I'm going off about Space Marines, there was a certain somebody who said that they believed it was their loyalty and perseverance and their faith to the Emperor that made them truly what they are. I forget exactly who it was, but that was more of the essence of, yes, what a super soldier is. Their training. And sure, that he said loyalty, and the fact that many of the Space Marines betrayed the Emperor, that becomes abundantly apparent. For the Adeptus Astartes, that would be abhorrent to them. Truly abhorrent. And I was talking to, at my local shop, I was talking to some people about the Adeptus Astartes. And to them, it was that they are this glory-seeking, pride-filled warrior race, pretty much. That they have more akin with Vikings than they do with, you know, what I'm talking about. That was their opinion. And to a point, I can definitely see that, especially with the less disciplined groups. Legion-wise, World Eaters. Absolutely. And then after the fall, after the heresy, secondary chapters, Flesh Terrors. They dipped into their rage to give them their vicious streak. And they did so with alacrity. Oh. But for me, I'm now designing my own chapter of Space Marines. In the rulebook's tabletop game, since you're usually at a disadvantage when you design your own chapter in there, I am going with the tactics of the Raven Guard. Since I haven't read a whole lot of books about them, but in the Codex it details a few things about them. They're colder and more distant than the other legions, which for some reason they find infuriating. You know, they're super soldiers. Shouldn't find that infuriating. It's the way they are. But that gives me the impression that they have a far higher level of discipline in multiple categories. Not to mention all the stories I've read about Captain Shrike, I believe his name is, are incredibly impressive and are perfectly capable of what a Space Marine would be should he have that true training. So I am incorporating Raven Guard. Backstory is, of course, you know, I design my own backstory since I'm a writer. And their story, of course, naturally dates all the way back to the heresy, which starts them off. The very beginnings of their particular chapter starts off as word bearers. They're led by an incredibly intelligent guy who finds out about the heresy. Well, he's not the actual one leading them, but he lets them all know, hey, this is what's going on. And because he's one of their most trusted confidants or member of their council, pretty much, they realize that, yeah, exactly what's going on is going on. And this is before, of course, the heresy initially begins. This is when the word bearers are still one of the only legions to have fallen. Horus Lupercal hasn't even fallen yet. And their leader also being, well, not, as I said, the guy's name that I've named him for now is Samus. And he is just this incredibly alpha level intelligent character who knows he knows no one's going to believe them. This was a blow to his mind when he found out. So he's attempting to find out more information. That's his goal. And he separates from his chapter in that pursuit. And long story down the road, he ends up deciding that he wants to learn more about chaos and, in essence, master an essence of it for himself. The rest of his chapter remain more on the Imperial side of things. However, they're still allied. So Samus becomes this, chaos guy who masters pretty much chaos in a very word-bearer essence, except he's not on the side of the word-bearers. He is distinctly, not loyal to the Emperor. That's another thing. None of them are truly loyal to the Emperor because they see what the Emperor is doing and they see how he operates, and he wiped out a whole planet just to punish Lorgar. That was a blow to them at first, but they were still loyal to the Emperor at the time. But as time passes, they see evidence that the Emperor could not only stop everything that's going on, but that he knew about what was going on and allowed it, if not planned for it or planned it. The more they look into it, the more they see the Emperor seemed like he wanted the Horus Heresy to happen. So they are not loyal to the Emperor, but they definitely aren't. Even Samus, the most chaotic of them, part of chaos, technically speaking now, is not loyal to the Emperor nor to chaos. He merely knows how to use it, and he exercises that. With that incredible mental discipline and power, he masters every form he comes across. He even gets possessed Marines, whole 9 yards. We're still working out the kinks in the story, but using him as, one, proper training for a Space Marine, 2, pinnacle of his physical prowess, and 3, he's an Alpha Plus level intelligence, which means screwing with him is on the back step of what you should ever be doing. And as I said, we're still going through, but dating to modern day, they've adapted. In the tabletop game, I'm having them use Raven Guard tactics, which, has proven incredibly advantageous. I honestly love the Raven Guard so far, and their chapter tactics. I don't get their night tactics. I am new to the tabletop game, but I don't understand the night tactics. It seems kind of the shroud and that whole 9 yards. I don't know. Whether you can do a cover save or an armor save. The armor save always seems to be better because it's 3+ for Space Marines. I'm just not seeing an advantage to the shrouding and all that it offers. Even the shadow armor the captain/chapter master can wear doesn't seem to make that big of a difference. So someone can explain that to me. I seriously appreciate it. Oh. But I haven't linked, of course. I'm currently going through the Horus Heresy level of story, and we're proceeding towards modern times and the steps that Samus took that made him go towards chaos, that kind of thing. It was, long story short, that happened. But it's the pinnacle. Yes, Penny, come here. Come here. Oh, yes, you just want to eat the world, but it's okay. The world doesn't need eating. You're all right. Oh. Come here, come here. Yeah, my little Penums, she just wants to eat everything. She can bark at it, she can eat it. Well, hi. Yes, I see you. You have a squishy face. Oh. Well, but that's my rant about Adeptus Astartes, pinnacle of super soldiery, and why I myself, especially my chapter that I'm making, fanfiction-wise, of course. Getting into the Black Library seems to be a freaking nightmare. So I actually did submit one of my works to the Black Library, which I will talk about in a later video, what that was about. But I submitted it on like the very last day you could submit it, and I think that maybe I submitted it too late to actually get in there, or they did read it and rejected it. Either way, it didn't make it. And at this point, I don't even know what happened to it. I don't know if I still have it somewhere, but I actually doubt it. I think in one of my hard drive wipes, it was one of the stories I forgot to save. Can't save them all. Well, in any case, Space Marines have the capability of being the pinnacle super soldier across any genre. They do, because of the physical prowess, but they fail in that aspect over and over again because no author that I have found has managed to capture the essence of their mental discipline, their training, whole 9 yards. That fails time and time again. And as a super soldier advocate, that just bugs me. Especially since, of course, Space Marines are my favorite faction, if no one hasn't gathered that by now. But my favorite thing to read about would definitely be the Imperial Guard Gaunt's Ghosts, because they are men. They are not trained from children, or for that matter, birth, to be soldiers. Of course, their faith in the Emperor is quite strong, but you can write the emotion in for them. Gaunt's Ghosts, just... For anyone who hasn't read it, I'm not going to tell you about those who die along the way, because that would be spoilers, but certain characters die that you get attached to. It just is like, boom! Oh, it's a slap across the face, and you're just reeling from it for a while. I mourned some of those characters. If you want emotion, read Gaunt's Ghosts. The Adeptus Astartes, as I've said, shouldn't be having that level of emotion. Of course, a part of them would mourn those that they lose along the way, but it wouldn't be so that they'd be devastated externally over it. You would never see it on their faces unless you were truly one of them, and that would be the reason why you could see it, is because you were one of them. Oh, in any case, I'll go ahead and end things there. If you have any feedback, feel free to go ahead and comment in the section below. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you dislike this video, feel free to give it a thumbs down. And, if you really like this kind of stuff, feel free to subscribe. In any case, don't get into too much trouble, or do. Always up to you. Toodles.